interesting happened and has been happening in science now. And the first time the general public got an understanding of it was when the movie What the Bleep Do We Know was released, where quantum physicists were discussing how, particles in the universe were being created from inside of us, and that feelings and emotions had chemical compounds, and because of these chemical compounds we were a broadcasting system that was getting particles to collaborate and bring about what we were feeling. And what happened then was, what we started to realize was that human beings were personally responsible for their whole reality. Now that has seen, coinciding with that has been this huge push and movement in the consciousness field, where consciousness is expanding at a huge rate. We have, suddenly we get access to all of this information online, and we're starting to realize, and humans are starting to wake up. Out of that came the understanding that we were personally responsible for our environment. We then fully understood at that moment that human beings were open systems, and as a human being transforms their inner world, what happens is that their outer world then catches up and adapts. So transformation, we knew from that point on, was an inside job, and as we transformed our reality from the inside, the particles around us were collaborating, colliding, and bringing together what we were feeling on the inside. Now, something has emerged in time as a result of that. Global consciousness, we're starting to realize, is intrinsically linked. And there's evidence being mirrored back to us all the time to tell us this. And a great example of this is what has recently happened in Europe, where you have Britain exiting the EU. And we knew that when that came about, there was this desire for change. We wanted change. People want to change. And we then started to see it happen. Obviously, it occurred in the US when you had Obama was taken out of, that regime was taken out. And then you have Donald Trump coming into power. And, what happened at that moment was we wanted to take responsibility for part of it. People wanted to take responsibility for the fact that there was change, but not who was put into power. So there seems to be that there's some invisible place upon which people put down the responsibility, upon which people go, yeah, okay, I want to take responsibility for the good bit, but I don't want to take responsibility for the bad bit. And the truth about it is that we have to take responsibility for all of it. You want to take responsibility for the fact that you're creating your reality, but you don't want to take responsibility for the fact that there are children being killed in Aleppo right now, and that you may be causing that. And in actual fact, we now know it's not that you may be causing it. The truth about it is we are causing it. All external wars that happen on the outside are just an internal reflection of the internal wars that happen on the inside. So therefore, if we're warring and battling on the outside and we're broadcasting that into the atmosphere, then we're creating all of it. So what do we need to do? How do we truly take responsibility now? And now what we know is that, the brain, which has or the heart, which has a brain, it has neural pathways. They have found neural synapses and neural pathways in the human heart. So that means that the human heart has a brain. So what we need to do now is we need to understand that we are broadcasting from this place. But the question is, if we're going to take responsibility, we can't take responsibility out here. We cannot fix anything out here. We just cannot do it. And we know this. That's why we put the baggage down. That's why we stop and go, okay, I want to take responsibility for the good bit, but I don't want to take responsibility for the bad bit. But the people are at a point now where we realize, okay, well, there's nothing I can do with what's going on out here, but how do I want to feel in here? And then, okay, let's say if you take responsibility for how you want to feel in here, and let's say the responsibility says, okay, I want to feel joy, I want to feel whole, I want to feel enough, I want to feel connected, I want to feel a part of everything. I want to feel a sensation of love and gratitude in my life, and I want to feel enough. But let's say in us simply feeling enough, that we now start to allow those children in Aleppo to feel enough. That we now start to allow our world leaders to feel enough. That we now allow our other colours, races and creeds and our religions to feel as if they're enough. What about if responsibility, and what about if we take that much responsibility and really go, okay, I see that it's intrinsically linked. So therefore, aren't I morally obligated? Aren't we morally obligated to feel whole Aren't we morally obligated to feel enough? Aren't we morally obligated because we are creating from the inside out to get that we are the source of all of it? The pleasure, the pain, the happy, the sad, the good, the bad, the right, the wrong. We're the source of all of it. And what about in that? And what about in that magical realization? What about in that empowering realization that in that moment, we start to affect the world. And in that moment, we start to take the world back into a state of balance and homeostasis, back into a state of pure congruency, back into a state of pure compassion and pure understanding of one another. Colours, races and creeds, no more divide. And I think that that's where we're heading. And we're close.